Remember when we said we'd stay together now until forever? Just us, just us. Said we wouldn't be like all the others.
What's up, you guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jessica Hickson, and I spent 5 years working my way up to the top of an MLM before realizing they're just not all that they're cracked up to be. My goal with this channel is to rescue some Huns, to prevent some from becoming Huns, and to also give those a voice who have left the Hun bot industry, like myself.
It's what you do, making me feel like I'm falling. And when you're moving, I can...
I am so excited about today's small business because she sent me some amazing products and I can't wait to share them with you guys. Today's small business shout out goes to Pink Turtle Soaps. Stephanie started Pink Turtle Soaps when she had her second child who had very sensitive skin. She had trouble finding a soap that would work for her skin. So she decided to start making her own soaps. It was then she realized that she loved making soaps and also that she could make a profit off of it. So she started creating soaps that are not harsh on sensitive skin. So I'm going to share with you guys today some of the stuff that she sent. Let me first start off by saying I know that these soaps are amazing because my husband says they're amazing, and we've also used the gummy bear one on my daughter. However, the only one that smells like what it's supposed to smell like to me is the gingerbread house, and that's not because they don't smell accurate to what their names are, but it's because my taste and smell are still messed up, so everything smells the same. Unfortunately, I wish I could smell these because my husband says that they're amazing. I actually can't share two of them with you guys because my husband's using one of them and we use the other one on my daughter, so they're not as pretty as they were when we first opened them. However, I will show you guys the ones that we haven't opened yet. This one is gingerbread house. Clean, fresh cotton. I wonder if I can turn the brightness down. Maybe I'll open a few so you guys can see what they actually look like. I'll open this one because it's super pretty. I actually wish that we wouldn't have used the gummy bear one because the gummy bear one was so cute. So this one is called Succulent Garden. It looks like this, and on top there's succulents. So on the gummy bear one, there were little gummy bears on top of here, and they actually looked like little gummy bears. They were so adorable. This one is super cute. It's called Peach Bellini. I think that's how you say it. And then we've got Kaleidoscope that looks like a funfetti cupcake. And then the one that actually smells like it's supposed to smell for me, which is like a breath of fresh air because nothing smells like how it's supposed to me. So this one is Gingerbread House. So not only are they super cute, apparently they smell really good, and I feel bad that she sent me all these because I'm not able to properly review them. However, I promise you guys, my husband and my daughter both said they smell amazing, so just take their word for it. If you love supporting small businesses and you need some ideas for some Christmas presents or something like that, definitely check out Pink Turtle Soaps. I will leave all of her links in the description below. Today's member shout out goes to Mumbles and Things by Maggie Haseman. Thank you so much, Maggie, for all of your support, and to all my channel members, thank you so much for your support. It means so much more than you'll ever know. I think that's all the shout outs I have for today, so let's go ahead and get on with the video. So it's officially that time of year where I'm just freezing all of the time, no matter what. So that's why I have my handy dandy blanket with me today. Also, I took my heating pad into my bedroom last night because hashtag 30 years old, and I needed it for my back. So I'm too lazy to get up and go get it. So we're just gonna snuggle up with a blanket today like we're just a couple of friends chatting together. And I'm actually gonna change this so that I don't have to hunch over as much. There we go.
I don't know what to do. Need a sign from above.
So today's video is going to be a little bit different than the rest of my videos that I filmed for you guys. That's basically because I was on a podcast the other day and she just got my wheels turning. So she went to say something about the effects of MLMs, but she started to say abusive, and then I was like, oh, I thought you were going to say abusive relationships. And she was like, it's funny that you say that because when I was looking up questions that I wanted to ask you, I looked up like signs of an abusive relationship, and that's what got her wheels turning on what questions she wanted to ask me. So that got my wheels turning, and I was like, you know what, now that I think about it, there are so many similarities between an MLM and an abusive relationship, as sad as that is. Again, I put the trigger warning at the beginning of this video, but if there is some sort of trigger for you in abusive relationships, then definitely click off now because I'm going to start talking about them. I know that this is a triggering topic for some people, but I also think that it is extremely extremely important topic to talk about because it's causing so much damage to people's lives, whether they realize it or not. And I think that if we knew what the warning signs looked like and maybe reasons why people won't leave, we can better understand like what's going on behind the mind of a Hun and what all goes into it and how they get so roped into the point of being scared or reluctant to leave. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of break down the signs of an abusive relationship. I did some research beforehand, just narrow it down to the ones that I felt were most important. So I'm going to tell you guys about the characteristic, and then I'm going to break down how that is seen within an MLM, so that hopefully it will help people recognize those types of signs when they're in one, so they don't get too far in and not able to get out. So the first sign of an abusive relationship is when someone is hypercritical or extremely judgmental. This may come in the form of trying to embarrass you or humiliate you. It could come in the form of putting you down to other people. It could come in the form of joking with you, but they're those kind of jokes where it's like, you know that there's some truth to it, and it hurts your feelings because you know that they're telling the joke in order to mask them actually being mean to you. And then it could also come in the form of always having to have an opinion about everything about your existence, what you look like, what you wear, how you dress, what you do with your time and your money, and everything, every decision that you make, they have to have an opinion on it. In ways that this would come within an MLM, I won't even like begin to touch on all of the shit talking that happens in MLMs because I feel like that's kind of a given, and it also happens in a lot of other workplaces, so it's not specific just to MLMs. But I'm going to focus more on things that may be done to you indirectly, passive aggressively, that you may not realize, so you haven't even put two and two together that it is a sign of an abusive relationship. So I'm first going to bring your attention to a text message that I wrote when I was in the MLM as someone else's leader to give you an example of what an abusive relationship might look like. And this is me being the abuser. So again, I've told you guys I will own up to everything that I've done, even if it makes me look like a fool, because I think it's important to touch on these types of things in order for this type of behavior to stop. So someone in my downline said this to me: if you could, I'd appreciate it. I want to succeed and feel like I'm not doing something right, either as a leader or a downline. So I'd like as much coaching as possible. I said back to her, the only thing you're doing wrong is feeling like you're doing something wrong. Your mindset is not where it needs to be. The only thing that can change that is you. You're always doubting yourself, hinting at the fact that you suck and questioning whether you're good enough or not. You are, but no one can make you believe that except for you. So this is what I like to call a compliment sandwich. So it starts off okay by saying the only thing you're doing wrong is feeling like you're doing something wrong. Okay. Your mindset is not where it needs to be, and the only thing that can change that is you. That's where I go wrong, because I just told her the only thing that's going wrong is feeling like she's doing something wrong, and then told her that she's doing something wrong. You know, like it was a very contradictory statement. But what I want to point out about this text message is that I was indirectly telling her that it was her fault that she was not succeeding, and that it was her fault that she was feeling down on herself. And this is oftentimes what people in an abusive relationship will do to you. They will gaslight you or use little passive aggressive statements in order to get their point across without sounding like they're being mean. This could be in an effort to look good from the outside. This could just be a manipulation tactic, but it is something that happens so frequently within MLMs. I've touched on different posts and things that my upline would make indirectly about me, and then when I would go to confront her about them, she would say that she didn't know what I was talking about and that it wasn't about me. So as I was editing this video, I was looking for some footage from a different scenario, and I came across some really juicy stuff. I wanted to share this one with you today, although I'll probably save the rest for another time. But I wanted to share this one because it's relevant to what we're talking about right now. It's a voice clip that my upline sent me from someone else in her downline. So it would have been my downline sister. I don't even remember her sending me this clip. However, it kind of validated how I was feeling about the specific situation that I was just talking about, how she would always make posts, and then when you confront her about them, she would be like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. So I wanted to play it for you guys today.
I'm really at a loss, and I just can't seem to calm down about it. And I really just don't know what else to do than just try to talk to you about it. But I know you. I know when you make posts. I know when then you play dumb to avoid the confrontation, Like, I know you. I've been the person that you've come to and talked to and confided in for years. Like, I know you. So I just don't understand.
And I'm going to get into gaslighting later, but a lot of these different traits of an abusive relationship tie in together. So keep that one in mind. So now I'm going to take your attention to a post that I made. And y'all, this post is the cringiest, most disgusting, embarrassing post. It's probably not the worst post I've ever made, but it's up there. And it goes right along with this being hypercritical and judgmental and abusive relationship. So the post reads, it's a couple of pictures of my son who looks absolutely adorable, might I add. It says,
"This precious boy right here is my why. I don't need anything else to drive me. I could never look at him and say, Mommy quit because it wasn't working. The business works if you work. It's not called net wish marketing. It's called network marketing. Leave your excuses at home. Stop looking for people to inspire you and inspire yourself. Make the change. You are worth it. Your family's worth it."
There is so much wrong with this post. I don't even know where to begin with it. But first of all, the first part was gaslighting and trying to guilt moms into thinking that they're failing their children if they failed at an MLM, which is absolutely disgusting. But this is something that narcissists or someone in an abusive relationship, an abuser in an abusive relationship, will do in order to make you feel like you're the problem. The business works if you do. It's not called net wish marketing. It's called network marketing. Leave your excuses at home. This entire post is just in an effort to make people feel bad for not working as hard as I thought they should have been working, which is, I don't know how many times I can say disgusting in one video, but if I could say it again, I would say it again. Another way that this may come up within an MLM is being made an example. So if a leader makes an example of you, for instance, yesterday in the video, or it won't be yesterday by this point, the last video that I posted, the preacher's wife would mock whoever it was that she was talking about, where she'd be like,
"I don't have a good upline," or "I don't have time."
That's their way of trying to embarrass or humiliate you publicly without actually saying your name, but mocking the things that you say. This also comes in the form of, like, another manipulation tactic, I guess, that they would use is that my leader would often tell me things like,
"I don't know how she expects to be successful if she's not running an auto shipment."
And when someone says something like that, they're not directly saying to you, you have to run an auto shipment. But what it's saying to you is if you want to be successful, you need to run an auto shipment. So when they're saying those types of things, your wheels are turning and you're like, oh, okay, so take note, I have to run an auto shipment if I want to be successful. Or like,
"She can't even take an hour out of her week to get on a team Zoom with us and she wants to be a top leader. Who does she think she is?"
So then you're sitting there like, okay, so if I want to be a top leader and I want to be successful, I need to make sure that I'm on every single team Zoom that we have. The second characteristic of an abusive relationship is ignoring boundaries and not giving you privacy. So this would come in the form of like always keeping tabs on you, always needing to know what you're doing with your time, digging too deep into things. So like pushing you too far, asking questions that they're not entitled to the answer, and also pressuring you to conform to whatever it is that they want you to conform to. Something that really speaks to me about this characteristic of an abusive relationship is the leadership retreats. I've touched on them before. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it here. But at the leadership retreats, their goal is to basically dig as far into your trauma as they can in order to break you down and build you up in the way that they want to build you up. So we would often do things like meditate for an hour, and it would be a guided meditation where they would tell you, think about the most traumatic thing you've ever experienced, walk yourself through that, like they would walk you through that traumatic experience again. And then in the end, it would turn out to be a positive experience because they would bring you together in the end and you would like release the trauma or whatever. No, they were not qualified to do that. And no, it didn't work. You should probably talk to a licensed therapist if you were trying to release any sort of traumas, because the licensed therapist will actually allow you to feel the feelings that come with that trauma and release them on their own instead of pushing them to the back and releasing them, aka just forgetting about them so you can work your business harder. But something else I was thinking about as I was researching these abusive relationships is that we played this game. I want to say we called it the why game, or maybe the what do you want game. I don't know, but it was a game where you would sit across from someone and you would say, what do you want? And they would say, I want to stay home with my kids. And you would say, what do you want? And they would say, I want a new car. And then the person would say, what do you want? They just would keep repeating, what do you want? Until they got to the root of what they wanted. And I know some companies called this the why game, and they would ask the question, why? So they would say, what is your why? And then they would say, my children. And then you'd say, why? And they'd say, because, you know, they deserve a better life than I had. And the person would say, why? And then you would just keep asking why until you got to like the root why. Our motto was, if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not strong enough. So we would get to the point of people crying. And I specifically remember a team meeting or a team Zoom that we did where one of the leaders confided in us that she played that game with someone at an event and that she wasn't allowed to hug that person until the person was done with the game. So they had to dig as deep as they possibly could before she could console that person. And if that doesn't scream cult, like, I don't know what does. In the MLM, this also comes in the form of speaking for you. So, for instance, some example of this would be a leader on a leadership call saying, I think I speak for all of us when I say, and then say whatever it is that they want you to also think. And that part goes along with like the forcing you to conform. They want you all to believe the same things. And so they think that if they just speak for you and tell you what you believe, that everyone will start believing the same things. Like I said, many of these characteristics of an abusive relationship kind of go together. And the next example I was going to mention kind of goes with this characteristic, but it also goes with the next one. So the next characteristic is that they are possessive or controlling. This would come in the form of like monitoring every single thing that you do, controlling everything that you do, isolating you from your friends and family, constantly checking up on you. It would also come in the form of getting angry if you are spending time away from them. So spending time by yourself, spending time with your friends, going to work. Some abusive relationships are the point of going to work is a control issue for some people. So the first thing I think about when I think about this one and controlling social media accounts and controlling what you do with your time is, first of all, the fact that we would call people out if they were doing something other than an income producing activity. So if someone was watching their favorite TV show, the rule was there's no BV in TV. So you weren't supposed to watch TV and you were definitely shamed if you did. Also, along with that is when we would send each other screen recordings of our inboxes to hold each other accountable, aka make sure that people were doing the work that they said that they were doing. Also, going on vacations and not being on your phone was a complete no-no. You had to be at least at the very minimum on vacation. You had to be posting. Let's not talk about the fact that when I needed to take a break away for my family, when my husband was deploying, I got told that I was neglecting my team and that they don't care what the reason is. No reason is enough to neglect your team. And then do you guys know those people who claim that they hate drama and they're like never in the drama, but they're always behind the scenes of the drama, using the people within the drama as little chess pieces. So if they have something to say to someone, they won't say it themselves, but they will talk one of their little chess players into saying it to that other person so that they can watch the drama unfold, but they're not a part of it. That is also an issue within MLMs. People want to control you and control what goes on within their team, but they don't want to be a part of the drama aspect of it. So they'll have the little minions do the work for them. Also, can I just tell you how mad that my upline would get if I was speaking on another leader's Zoom, or if one of the ambassador uplines, so the top uplines above her, reached out to me and like congratulated me or anything. She was so offended because I was hers. I was her leader and she wanted control of me. It was also probably a little bit of jealousy because she never got that attention as she was on her rise, in my opinion. But of course, it was always put in a way where she was looking out for me and had my best interest at heart. And the reason that she didn't want me associating with the people above her was because they didn't have good intentions and they're just known for certain things. And she didn't want me to be associated with what they were known for, which I later found was not true, or it was at least exaggerated. But the one that really gets me about this is the way that they isolate you from your friends and family, because they don't just straight up come out and say like, cut off your friends and family. They will use different manipulation tactics to make you believe that your friends and family don't have your best interest at heart. I've mentioned what my upline told me about my husband. I've mentioned what my upline said about my mom. She even went as far as to tell her upline, one of the ones who asked me to speak on a team Zoom with them, that I had mommy issues in an effort to drive me and my mom apart. This also may come in the form of, making passive aggressive posts about it's okay to cut off toxic family members. And I do think it's okay to cut off toxic family members if they are genuinely being toxic to your life and they don't have your best interest at heart. However, what they mean by toxic family members is someone who
doesn't support you
in your MLM. I was also often told that sometimes friendships just grow apart, which I agree that they do. However, if they're not organically growing apart, but you are forcing them apart because they're just not on your level, then there's a problem there. And that's what they would convince us of. If there were friends in our lives who were trying to steer us away from the business, or they were taking up too much time that we should have been spent working on the business, or if they were negative about the business in any way, we were told that we were on a different level than they were, and they just weren't leveling up as quickly as we were. So to let them go, and if it's meant to be, they'll find their way back. Also, let's not forget in last week's video about the working 2 MLMs at one time, if you were caught trying to do anything other than the MLM before you were quote unquote successful, then you were in trouble for it. Like if you were caught with another MLM,
ooh, buddy.
I know there were people who tried to start up like clothing boutiques, and that was a huge no-no. I tried to start YouTube while I was still in, and that was a huge no-no because it wasn't an income-producing activity. They wanted complete control of everything that you were doing with your time, because every free moment that you had should be put into your business. The fourth sign of an abusive relationship, and there will be 5, I don't know if I mentioned that. And the fourth one is manipulation. And this is where the gaslighting comes in. And I will say that I experienced this the most in the MLM, and not only by like my upline, but also I was doing it to other people. But one thing that really comes to mind when I think about gaslighting is, so you guys know I had like a falling out with my upline. We got a new team page, and then other things happened and we went back to the old team page, right? So when I initially had cut off my upline, I did it without warning because I had hit my breaking point. I had said something to her numerous times about posts that she was making that were clearly directed towards me, and she would not own up to it. It was constant gaslighting about, that's not about you, like that's about so-and-so who thought that they were her best friend, or that's just a generic quote that I found online, or what, after something between us had just happened that it was clearly about me, right? So I finally had had enough, and I just cut her off with no warning. After we went to our own team page, the other stuff happened, we went back to her team page. I cannot tell you, I never heard the end of,
"You really hurt me, Jessica. I don't think you understand the amount of pain you caused me. When you cut me off with no warning, you put me in the darkest place I've ever been in my entire life, and you're gonna have to earn that trust back. It's gonna take some time, but I think we can get there if you really work on earning my trust back. And yeah, my family is hurt by it too. You're gonna have to earn their trust back too. I'm sorry, Jessica, but you hurt us bad." Constantly. Every single time I was on the phone with that lady, she had to remind me how much I hurt her. Owned up to nothing. Mind you, one of the reasons that I cut her off was because I told her straight up, I can't handle all the shit talking. All we do when we talk is we just talk shit about people. It's very negative. My head is not in a good place right now, and I can't take it. To the point where when we connected again, and she just kept reminding me every single day how much I hurt her, she even said to me, she said, after talking shit about someone, she said,
I know, I'm sorry. You hate when I talk shit about people. Like, I'll stop. I just had to get that off my chest
or whatever. But by that point, like, it's already in my head. You've already gotten your point across. I know what you're doing. But she wanted to make it seem like she was being compliant with what I wanted, and I didn't want a negative friendship. The gaslighting was so real. And I don't even think I mentioned in what form this would come in an abusive relationship, but it would come in the form of like guilt tripping you. So like I just mentioned, ignoring you, like withdrawing from any sort of affection or love towards you if you did something wrong. Also like making you doubt yourself, which also is like gaslighting, and then denying things that you know are true. So like I knew that I cut her off for a good reason, and I stand by that to this day, but she was so good. Well, not really good, because I definitely picked up on it. Every single time she would say it after it happened, I wanted to hang up on her, because I was just like, you know what you're doing right now. You're trying to make me believe that I did something wrong by cutting you off, but I told you time and time again that this negativity and stuff was just too much for my mental health at that point. I know why I cut you off. But she tried so hard to make me believe that I was the problem. And she still does to this day. I mean, like, she's the one that made the post about me burning my house down. But when it comes to like ignoring and excluding you, this would come in the form of, think like elementary school, okay? You're in elementary school, you have your girlfriends, there's like 5 of you. One of you talk to the other one's boyfriend. So the other 3, there's 5 of you. One of you talked to the other one's boyfriend. So the other 4, they all gang up and they decide that they're not going to be talking to you, that they're best friends now, but you're not part of their friend group because you talked to the other one's boyfriend, until one of them does something to piss you off or piss them off. And then the other 3 come running to you, and then you leave that one out. That's literally what it was like. Like, there was drama with people, so then they would become a friend group and leave the other people out. And then those people would have beef with like a couple of these people, so they would team up, and then they'd leave these people out. And then these people were jealous of these people. And so then those 2 would team up to try to demonize and take down these people. It was constant drama all the time. And it still is, from what I hear. And then the final characteristic of an abusive relationship, before I get into why people might stick around longer than they normally would, is that they dismiss you and your feelings. So they would do things like downplay your emotions, tell you that you're crazy, or you're just too sensitive, or that you're not remembering something correctly. And I think this could all go in with gaslighting. Like I said, these all are kind of connected, but they would also like be indifferent about your feelings. They don't really care about your feelings. They would do a lot of blame shifting and not taking responsibility for anything that they did, which I just described the scenario where all of that was present. But overall, we see this every single day in MLMs. People in MLMs always want you to believe that it's not the MLM or the business structure that's the problem, but it's a you problem if you're not successful, and it's a work ethic problem if you're not successful. And I'm not even going to get into the politics of it, but I have noticed that there are a lot of calling people snowflakes because they're just too sensitive and they just can't take constructive criticism. It's not constructive criticism if you're manipulating people. Anyways, now that we know the signs of an abusive relationship, I wanted to go over like why people have a hard time leaving abusive relationships, because I think that it's pretty much identical to the reasons why people have a hard time leaving MLMs. Obviously, they come in many different forms and there are many different reasons, but I'm going to touch on the top 9 reasons that I believe that people don't leave abusive relationships and MLMs. So the first one is fear. And I think this is pretty much an obvious one, but they're scared of the consequences of leaving their partner. They're scared of being independent. They feel dependent on their partner for whatever reason. And in MLMs, I feel like this comes in the form of a lot of things, but financially, I think is one of the reasons that people won't leave MLMs. I know there are people at the top of different companies that are still with their MLM solely because they've built themselves up financially to the point where they're living a certain lifestyle based on that income. And the thought of starting over from scratch and having to change their entire lifestyle is terrifying. I think this also comes in the form of like fear of not having any friends because you've shut people out while you were in your MLM. The fear of not having any self-worth because you've built your life around the MLM and the MLM then defines you. The second reason it might be hard for people to leave is because the abuse has been normalized. So they don't know any different. They grew up in an abusive home, what have you. In the MLM, this would show in the form of they've never been in an MLM, so they don't know what is right or wrong. They don't know that there's a better life on the outside because they've been on the outside and they didn't feel that life was getting any better, so that's why they joined the MLM. They feel like the MLM is the only way to have a life that they truly enjoy and that they're truly thriving in. The third reason is shame, and I dealt with this one a lot. Not in an abusive relationship, but in my MLM. But in an abusive relationship, it will show in ways that they have tried to convince their family that their partner isn't like this, and they feel weak that they've put up with it for all this time. So they feel like it's just easier to stay in the relationship. And in the MLM, it would come in the form of feeling shameful about all of the people that you brought on board with you, feeling shame about trying to convince everyone in your life that this is not a scam for the last 5 years. So basically letting your pride down and admitting that you were wrong. I dealt with a lot of shame and guilt around the people that I brought in and convinced of this, who were then stuck and brainwashed so they couldn't see that it was what it was. So the people that I was responsible for bringing in, who now were brainwashed by my upline and unable to see past it so that I could get them out. Thank God, all of them but one is out at this point. So I don't deal with that as much anymore, but I still do deal with a little bit of shame, or not really shame, but guilt around the people that I hurt along the way, financially, emotionally, mentally, that I can't take back. But it's my hope that by making these videos and informing other people of it, that it will start to kind of repay everyone that I've hurt by saving more people. I don't know if it works like that, but we'll just pretend it does. The next one is intimidation. This would come in the form of like blackmail, physical threats in a relationship. In an MLM, this comes in the same form other than physical threats. I don't know, maybe people deal with physical threats. I haven't dealt with any physical threats, but this also comes in the form of blackmail. You know, like you say and do some things that you're not proud of when you're in an MLM because you're in a different state of mind. Maybe that's why I started making my YouTube channel, because it's just a lot easier to own up to the shit that I did instead of having other people try to blackmail me with it. Who knows? But I do know that a lot of people are blackmailed with a lot of stuff that they said and did within the MLM. And that's why they don't want to leave, because they feel like these people have too much on them, especially because they spend all this time trying to dig into your deepest, darkest secrets in order to create this stronger bond with you. So they know literally everything about your life. And you feel like they're your sisters, so you're willing to tell them everything about your life. The next thing is low self-esteem. And in a relationship, this would come in the form of someone blaming themselves for their partner being abusive, feeling like they're not worth anything because their partner was abusive. And I think those feelings come similar to that of an MLM, leaving an MLM. Like I said, the MLM starts to define you and it gives you worth. It makes you feel like you're making a difference. And if you were accomplished in an MLM, then you feel accomplished. And so when all of that goes down the drain, it could take your self-esteem very low, which it did for me. I was a known leader within the company. People were excited to talk to me. People were asking me to speak on Zooms. People looked up to me. I felt accomplished. I felt proud of all that I had accomplished. And so to let that all go, I felt like I was letting go anything I had ever accomplished in my life. I felt like at some points that I wasn't worth anything anymore because I owned a gym during a pandemic. My husband was deployed. I was by myself and I had just given up. They made me believe, given up on this dream of being financially free in an MLM. And many of these do go together as well. But the next one is lack of resources. And this could either be financially, like no community to turn to for support, what have you, which I also dealt with a lot of. People who depend on their partner for financial help or financial dependence may be scared to leave their relationship because they're scared of being financially independent, as well as if your partner has forced you to not speak to your friends and family and isolated you away from them, you may be scared to leave the relationship because you won't have anyone to turn to because you've cut everyone out. And that is the same within the MLM. They want you to isolate yourself and surround yourself with only the people who are within the company. So when you leave, you have no one to lean on. Which, if that's you, I have some great exciting news for you. I actually created a support group on Facebook because many of you guys have been asking me about one, and I went to search for one and I found one that that was not extremely active. So I decided to create a support group on my own. It's called The Light at the End of the Pyramid, and it's just a support group for people who have left an MLM and are looking for people to help navigate them through life after MLM. So we already have an amazing group of women in there. They're so interactive and they're constantly posting things and leaning on each other and telling each other their stories, and I absolutely love it. So if you have been a part of an MLM, definitely look it up on Facebook. Like I said, it's called The Light at the End of the Pyramid, but this is not for you if you have not been in an MLM. This is not for you if you're still in your MLM and not contemplating leaving anytime soon. If you are in your MLM, but you're not actively working and you're contemplating leaving, this group is for you. But if you're just wanting to get in there and snoop, don't even try sis, because it's not going to happen. So when I left my MLM, you guys know I lacked a lot of support in my real life because I had done a great job of cutting everyone off who actually cared about me. And so I went through it alone, other than my best friend, who was just my neighbor at that time, but actually ended up becoming my best friend and encouraging me to speak out about my story because she watched me go through it. I don't think anyone should have to go through it alone. It was terrifying and terrible to go through alone. And I'm sure there were a lot of outside factors that, you know, made it a lot harder, but I don't think anyone should have to go through it alone. So that's why I created that group, and we're already making amazing bonds and it's awesome. So you should definitely join that group if you are trying to navigate life post MLM. The next thing that might hold someone into an abusive relationship is cultural context. So different types of beliefs or communities that they're a part of. So say that, for instance, you both go to the same church and you're in an abusive relationship, but you know that if you leave that relationship, the people at your church will notice that you guys are not in a healthy relationship, and you will feel like you're isolated from your community because of this abusive partner. Someone might stay in a relationship because of that. Could be the same situation within an MLM if you attend the same church as some of the people that you're in the MLM with. However, what really struck my mind about this one was that for whatever reason, there is a correlation between MLMs or certain MLMs and, I don't know if I can even say the name of the group, but like the conspiracy theorist type group that starts with a Q. There's been a huge connection between the two. And so I think a lot of people stick within that specific MLM or the MLMs that follow that group because they've built this community of people who all believe the same thing about something other than the MLM. So they worry that if they leave the MLM, they're not going to have the same support in the group that they all share the same beliefs, if that makes sense. So they're in the MLM and they're in this group and they coexist, but if they leave the MLM, they're worried that this group is going to disown them as well. Another reason people might not leave an abusive relationship is because of children. You've heard time and time again, people stick together for the children. I think in the MLM, this comes in the form of not wanting to let your children down. They do a great job of convincing you, hence Jess's post at the beginning of this video. They do a great job of convincing you that you're basically telling your family and your kids that they're not worth it if you quit. And then the last one is love, that you genuinely care for that person and you can see past all of their flaws because you love them so much. And this comes in the same exact form in an MLM. You guys, like, I genuinely felt love for so many people within the MLM. Sure, we had our ups and downs and a lot more downs than there were ups, but I have a loving and forgiving heart, almost too forgiving most times. And I genuinely felt love for these people, and I genuinely felt love for my customers and this company, and I had a passion. Like, there was love all around. But looking back now, that love stemmed from a brainwashed state. So the love wasn't out of genuine love from my heart. It was out of basically this mask that had been pulled over my eyes when I joined. And so I saw everyone and everything within the company through a more positive light through this mask that was pulled over my eyes. So all of the love and connection that I felt to these people in this company was out of a brainwashed state. I don't know how else to put it. Like, when I tell you I was obsessed with some of the top leaders, I was obsessed. And that's not because in everyday life they're just amazing people. It's because of what I was taught and how I was brainwashed when I was in, which is so scary, not to mention culty. All right, you guys, that's all I have for the correlation between abusive relationships and MLMs. I hope that no one takes this in the wrong way. I hope that no one feels like I'm downplaying an abusive relationship or the effects of an abusive relationship, but I do feel like the healing process and the warning signs are the same. Not identical, but they have similar traits. And I think that if we're able to recognize those before we're in too deep, that a lot of people can be saved from MLMs. So I felt like it was something definitely that was very important to talk about. I'm not sure if you guys enjoy videos like this, but I thought it was an important topic, so I wanted to definitely cover it. But I'll probably be back to my normal videos soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the post notification bell if you'd like to be notified every time I post. If you'd like to, you can follow me on all social media platforms at @TheJessicaHickson. Other than that, I love you guys so much. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!